And with me now is Faisal Hanjra from Claystone, a think tank that researches solutions for Muslim cohesion in the United Kingdom. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Yes, the Prime Minister did speak at length about a lack of cohesion, a lack of integration really, between some of those in the Muslim community in this country and wider society. Do you see that as a potential point that is exploited by the extremists and the groomers?
It was an interesting speech by David Cameron today, and in that speech he outlined a raft of measures to tackle the ISIS ideology, of which the issue of integration was an important plank of that. And certainly in a study published by the OSCT, the Office for Security and Counterterrorism branch of the Home Office, they highlighted that there are three key factors in causing radicalisation. One was a foreign policy grievance, the second was a perception of Islamophobia, and the third was a lack of integration or a lack of belonging, a lack of feeling of belonging in wider society. Any approach to properly tackling terrorism and properly tackling the issue of radicalisation must be comprehensive, must be holistic, and must tackle all three.
And that lack of cohesion, or rather that lack of integration, is it possible to point to any single group's fault or lay any blame at anyone's door for that?
It's difficult to say. We've had 10 years worth of a counter-terror strategy started by Tony Blair's government and continued on through to David Cameron's. The prevent narrative and the prevent agenda has in essence suggested that the Muslim community as a whole, so all 4 million, are potentially at risk of radicalisation. That's why you have a nationwide prevent agenda that's been rolled out by the government. As a Muslim myself, as Lord Ahmed also alluded to, that's a problematic position to come from, because the vast majority of Muslims are wonderful, law-abiding, peaceful citizens. It's that tiny, tiny, tiny minority that aren't. 700 people, Muslims, have potentially gone to join IS out of a population of 4 million. That would suggest that actually, although there's a serious problem and that problem needs addressing, criminalising or potentially suggesting that the whole Muslim community might be at risk of radicalisation perhaps isn't the way of going about it.
Do you think that is the implication from his speech today?
The central plank of the counter-terror strategy remains unchanged. So the Prime Minister wants to tackle terrorism in this country by tackling the problem of religion, this Islamist narrative. Lots of research now, we've got a decade's worth of experience now, a decade's worth of research at the very least, which has suggested that the causes of radicalisation are numerous and multifactorial. And actually, while religion is a problem, it's a much smaller driver in the process of radicalisation than was initially thought back in 2005. And in 2008, MI5 Behavioural Studies Unit released a study suggesting that actually a properly grounded religious understanding was a protective factor in the radicalisation process. And that's why we see a lot of people who've been arrested under counter-terror legislation, who've been convicted of terror offences, are very new to the religion. Actually, they have a very, very basic understanding of what Islam is. What they've been sucked into is the wider political issues that surround some of the most complex problems in the Middle East. So tackling the problem of religion is, I think, missing the point.
Sure, studies suggesting, looking at the religious ideology of some of the IS commanders, suggest that they've got next to no concept or grasp of what Islam is really about. Are you suggesting then that the emphasis, or parts of the emphasis of the Prime Minister's speech today, have been in the wrong direction?
Not just today, but going back a number of years.
Going back, yeah. And the whole prevent strategy.
That's such an important point. What we really need to push for now is hundreds of millions of pounds worth of taxpayers' money has gone into the prevent strategy. We need to understand what the academic basis is upon which the prevent strategy is based. And that academic basis should be open to scrutiny. Open to scrutiny by academics, by social scientists and lots of other people out there who have a particular interest in the process of radicalisation. The concern otherwise is, having had 10 years worth of this, another 5 of the same policy won't leave us in any more of a safer position at the end of this government than we find ourselves in at the beginning.
Okay. Faisal Hanjra from Claystone, thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, the Defence Secretary has confirmed that